I don't unfortunately have any screenshots or pictures or anything because it's very hard to visualize music on hold. So these slides are pretty boring, but the intro music on hold with the messages are going to be up on our website after this as well, as well as the presentation. So I've been working with music on hold in Asterisk for years, ever since we started with working with Vici Dial and call center stuff. It's a very integral part, very important, often overlooked. I admit, overlooked by me. Usually those default sounds that you've heard were all that we would install, and still they're pretty much the defaults. But you can do a lot more with music on hold, and it took some of our clients, mostly inbound type call center clients, to really push us on it and tell us some things that they've been experimenting with and some things that they've gotten to work and actually do some inventive things with music on hold. But the first part of this is really just an overview of getting music on hold working. Some of the stuff that you can do with music on hold is not really documented very well. Some of it changes from version to version, and I'll try to go over that stuff in here. You see, first we're going to go over the technical side, then we're going to cover the operations side. First are modes. This is in musiconhold.com if you define a mode for your context or your class of music on hold. Files is just what it says. It's just a grouping of files on the local server that have the ability to play in any format that Asterisk has. Custom uses an outside application. This is how most companies have been able to do streaming or a live line feed. I've got a humorous anecdote about that a little later on. And MP3, which was the default and the only option in the early versions of Asterisk, where you had to encode everything as MP3 and not just any kind of MP3, because not all MP3s would work. And sometimes the defaults were pretty darn loud, so there was a separate class of quiet MP3s that were added. This is the basic overview of how to set up each of those three. Mode equals files. Well, that's pretty easy, and then you just point it to a directory. There's not really much else to it. You put all of your files in there and it will play them. Now, there's another parameter, random equals yes, that will randomly play those files. Now, something that was just fixed in 1.6, even though it was identified as an issue 5 years ago, in Asterisk 1.2, 1.4, is that the files does not actually play in order. It plays in order of the B tree of the file system, meaning that it plays the files in the order in which they were put on the file system, put on the server. So we released a patch for that for 1.4 so that it will actually play in proper order. So if you list your files as 001 music on hold, 002 music on hold, 003, it will actually play them in order. But as I said, 1.6 and 1.8 have that fixed. And no, Digium would not accept our patch for 1.4. Don't ask me why, I can't explain it. I couldn't make sense of their reasoning. But MP3 just uses the MP3 player. That's what the mode is for. Quiet actually lowers the gain on it, so it's not as loud. And custom, basically you can put in any form of command that you can run to initiate a stream of audio. Now there's some services out there, several listed on the voipinfo.org website, at least, that you can use as free music on hold streaming. And to reload, once you've made changes to musiconhold.conf, you can just do a mo reload, M-O-H reload, or just do it through a CLI remote command. Now the version changes, not really that much has changed in music on hold since 1.0. 1.0 it was MP3 files only. Streaming was pretty difficult to get set up and running. With 1.2 they changed to allow any codec to be used for files. So any codec Asterisk could use, from 729 to GSM to ULAW, all of them would work. 1.4, the default format changed to WAV. 1.6, they added cacher classes. which is a way of having one single instance run and all calls that are in music on hold simply pull from that stream, which if you've got 100, 200, 300 calls in music on hold, drastically lowers the load on your system instead of playing 100, 200, 300 individual files. Now that does reduce the functionality. You're not able to do things like have the file start at the beginning, as you do with files, but in a lot of cases, in high-capacity systems, that's not as big of a concern. 1.8 really has been just bug fixes since 1.6. It hasn't really had much attention focused on it. There are a few very small, rare type of bug fixes that have been done in the 1.8 tree, but I'm sure that'll change over the next few months. Now, as for the audio codecs, talking about optimization and lowering of load, you can have multiple codec versions of the same file name, and Asterisk will look and see if it can find a .gsm file for a call that's coming over using GSM codec, so it doesn't have to transcode. You can do the same thing with G729 even, without using any transcoding licenses, which is great. So I've got the command here, which actually took me some tinkering to get it working, but you can use file convert, which is a function of Asterisk to actually take a file in one codec, convert it into an audio file in another codec that can actually be used by Asterisk in music on hold, as well as any other prompts in your system. Now the default file format, which of course we always have issues with clients uploading things in like 6K Oki dialogic format, and people uploading 44 kilohertz 16-bit stereo CD quality audio, and having it not work with Asterisk. So in our software, as well as several other places, you'll see this in FreePBX as well, 16-bit 8K mono PCM WAV files. I'll say it again, 16-bit 8K mono PCM WAV files. We always have issues. I'd say about a half to a third of our clients completely ignore that and just save it as whatever they want. Another interesting issue that we've run into is voice talent that uses Mac laptops or Mac computers. For some reason, there are audio programs on there that don't save riff headers, which are the headers that tell the file what it is. And when you put those directly in Asterisk, Asterisk says, I don't know what the heck this thing is. You open it up on a PC, and it looks like a proper WAV file. Then you just have to save it again, even though you haven't changed anything, and that adds the riff headers to it. So that's another complication we've run into with using certain voice talent. Not Allison, who just entered the room, as I mentioned earlier. But, she doesn't have any problems working with Asterisk. What applications use music on hold? Well, there are a lot of them. The general dial plan, you can kick it off with an extension dial plan entry. Queues and agents can use it, both for agents waiting for calls and for callers waiting to be sent to an agent. Meet Me can use it for single participant conferences. Dial, you can have that playing instead of a ringtone while you're waiting for a call to answer. There's an option or a variable, it depends on the version of Asterisk you're using, called Set Music on Hold, where you can actually set different music on holds for different parties of a phone call. And of course AGI, which allows all sorts of other applications like, in our case, ViciDial, to use music on hold while other things are going on in the background. What type of music to use? Well, that kind of depends upon how compliant you want to be and how worried you are about companies like BMI and other license holders. There are license fees for most commercial music. If you just take a CD and you pop it in and you play it for music on hold, technically you're violating the license. And there are companies like BMI and several others here in the States that will try to seek compensation for that. Now, depending upon the size of your company and what you're doing with it, the prices are different, but in general, most companies will opt for license-free or royalty-free music. And if you do a Google search for royalty-free music, you can find a lot out there. There are a few websites that actually have collections of, if you've heard of Apple's GarageBand, people have made just very basic audio compilations of different styles of music, and they offer them free for download, royalty free, even for commercial use. So that's an option out there. You want to choose music that's appropriate for your client base. You don't want to be playing rap to an elderly group that's buying Craftmatic beds, for instance. On the other hand, you don't want to be playing, easy listening music to perhaps a radio call-in show. Who knows? But the interesting anecdote I wanted to mention, a few years ago, one of our clients, which deals mostly with the elderly market, they were using line-in. They had a radio station that was providing their music on hold, which, by the way, you still run into the license issues with that technically. So they had this play. It was a mix type of an easy listening mix radio station, and they just hadn't thought about it, hadn't checked it, and who knows how long. Well, the radio station changed format, and it changed format to I don't know the exact. It was basically R&B. It was rap, and it was a very different kind of music than the people calling in were used to, and it was pretty loud and somewhat profane to them, but it took them 2 weeks to figure out from complaints from people calling, because they never bothered to call into their own queue. So that's definitely something you need to worry about. Radio stations do change format. You shouldn't be using one anyway, but that's something that can happen. Don't put your callers to sleep with music that's too quiet or soft. Yes, some of the Asterisk music on hold music that you'll hear starts out very quiet. Some of it is very quiet, and sometimes the callers may wonder, are you there? I can't hear anything. I hear little clicks in the background or something like that, or it just kind of puts them to sleep. On the alternate side, check your levels so the audio is not too loud or distorted. You don't want hot audio blowing away your callers so that they have to hold the phone away from their ear, and then when you finally say hello, hello, they aren't ready to take the call. And remember, of course, this is not high fidelity. You only have 8 kilohertz to work with. Sound quality is not going to be perfect. This is the phone system here. I know that Asterisk is capable now of doing more high resolution audio, but you want to make sure that what you're doing sounds good over the phone. So convert it down to 8 kilohertz, make sure it sounds okay. Just don't take something that's CD quality and expect it to sound perfect when it's at that reduced resolution. Periodic announcements. We're going to talk about cues a lot because that's one of the most flexible applications that uses music.